Hey everyone, Theo here. Today I'm reviewing the Etchr Lab watercolor paper block. Disclaimer, this is a review sample provided by Etchr Lab and I have reviewed many of their products over the years. So this watercolor paper block is available in cold press and hot press. Alright, just to give you the bottom line up front, this is high quality 100% cotton watercolor paper that works great with wet on wet techniques. Colors appear vibrant on the paper. The paper is able to handle many layers of washes. You can also lift the paint if you want to. Pen and ink will work better on hot press than on cold press, which I will show you later. So you can choose either cold press or hot press to suit the type of art that you create. Oh, by the way, consider supporting me on Patreon to support my YouTube channel and the work that I do here. Do note that the company also sells 50% cotton watercolor paper as well as 0% or wood pulp watercolor paper, so don't buy the wrong paper. At the time of review, the only paper size available is 9 by 12 inches, and this paper is made with 100% cotton. Paper weight is 350 GSM and there are 20 sheets or pieces of paper. These watercolor paper blocks are sold in a set of 2 from Etchr Lab online store and the price is US $89, which may or may not include free shipping depending on your location. And on their product page, you can choose to have a set with 2 cold press or 2 hot press or 1 of each. 350 GSM paper is quite thick. The paper block is glued on all 4 sides. And here at the bottom, there is a little opening where you can put your penknife or cut through to remove the pieces of paper. This cover is not glued to the top of the paper block. Let's cut out the first page that's meant to protect the watercolor paper. So this is cold press and this is hot press. Cold press paper is actually not meant to be used with colored pencils because this is going to wear down the pencil very quickly. And also when you press down hard, it's difficult to actually remove the white of the paper, so it's difficult to fill in solid colors. For example, here you can see this. I have to press down very hard in order to remove the white. And this is hot press and there is more texture than I expected. So this is not that suitable for colored pencils as well, and I spelled the word wrongly. The white of the paper is traditional white. This is not bright white. This is a watercolor pad from Fabriano and this is from another brand. So I'll say the white looks kind of similar. I happen to have hot press watercolor paper from another brand and this is how colored pencils look on this paper versus the Etchr Lab. As I draw with the pencil on the paper, I feel like there is again more texture on the Etchr Lab. And now I'm going to do the 3 tests that I usually do for watercolor paper. And the first test is the line test. I'm going to wet this surface and I'm going to pick up some paint and draw 3 horizontal lines like this. Let me pick up more paint. So the paper is now tilted at an angle and I want to see whether the paint can actually diffuse to the point where you no longer see the lines. And the next test will be wet on wet. So I'm going to have yellow here and I'm going to have red here. And I'm going to try and move the paper to try and blend these 2 colors together. Okay, I guess I should have put more water here because the yellow has dried up. Anyway, this looks pretty good to me. The next thing I want to do is to paint a gradated wash. So let's have a lot of red here at the top. Let's tilt the paper a bit more. Okay, so I'm going to pick up the excess paint here. I'm going to do the same test on the cold press paper as well, and this time I have used a lot more water, and you can see the color blend is so smooth. So this is the wet on wet test. These are almost dry, so let's take a look at the results. For the line test, I would say the lines are able to diffuse quite nicely. On the cold press paper, you can see this very nice soft blend. And here I have used a lot of paint, so some of the paint has not dissolved yet. But here there is less paint and the line is almost indistinguishable. So that's cold press. And this is hot press. Again, you can see the very nice soft blend. The horizontal lines are not that obvious. And this is 25% cotton watercolor paper from Fabriano. And you can see the horizontal lines, they are very obvious because the paint just doesn't want to move even on a wet surface. For color blending on paper, as long as you use enough water, the colors are able to blend very beautifully together. This is cold press and this looks really good, and you can see the texture of the cold press paper as well. Next up, we have hot press, and we don't see much of the paper texture in the wash, and also here. Here I have used excess water at the bottom and I didn't use too much water at the top, so it dried with hard edges. But if you use enough water, you will be able to get very soft blends like this. And lastly, we have the 25% cotton paper. You can see very obvious machine-like pattern on the cold press surface, and you can see the texture, the cold press texture. Here I have also used a good amount of water, so I was able to get the colors to blend softly, beautifully together. But it requires a bit more work. On good quality watercolor paper, the water will actually do most of the work for you, but on paper that isn't that good, you have to do more of the work yourself, like tilting the paper to make sure the colors blend and move where they need to move, and make sure you use enough water. This is gradated wash on cold press and it looks fine. It's not as gradated as I want, but that's due to my lack of technique. This is gradated wash on hot press, and you can see the blend is smoother. There is some water background here because I left the paper flat when the paper is still not dry. And lastly, we have 25% cotton paper. So on this paper, there is this pattern to the cold press texture that is quite obvious, that looks kind of artificial. And also notice as the paint blends or moves down, there is some hint of streaking lines. And that is because the paint is not able to blend or spread out smoothly or softly with the wet surface. So with these three simple tests, I am able to tell you for a fact that the paper quality from the Etchr lab, 100% cotton watercolor paper pad, is pretty good. Next, I'm going to do a quick pen, ink, and watercolor sketch. I seem to be creating these dry lines here, or rough lines here, so maybe I have to draw a bit slower to get the solid lines. Okay, now you can see this very solid line. Okay, I can see some dry edges as well again, and I'm not even drawing very fast. This is the Uniball Air pen. Okay, this pen also uses a roller ball, and it seems like I can get solid lines more easily, so perhaps it's the problem with the Uniball Signal gel stick that I have. So the lines are just way more solid here. This is what I prefer. This paper is actually not that rough. I mean, it's rougher compared to hot press paper, but it's not as rough compared to some other brands such as Etchr. Etchr is kind of rough even for cold press. It has this sandy texture to it. And this is the same sketch on hot press paper, and I can see and feel the difference instantly. So this paper is smoother for pen and ink work, and the pen glides on the paper more smoothly. And this is with me sketching rather quickly, and the lines are more solid compared to what I could get on the cold press paper. Okay, let's paint this. I hope the ink is dry. Okay, the ink is dry, thankfully. This paper is quite thirsty, so do put more water if you are using wet on wet techniques. Ultramarine. Same thing on the hot press. Did I use the correct color? This does not look like ultramarine. Okay, too much paint. The moment you put paint on paper, you sometimes can straight away know how good the paper is. So this is the type of texture we are talking about when we talk about cold press. And this is hot press paper. So notice the texture here. There is some texture, but it's not as obvious compared to cold press. The paper is 350 GSM, and this can handle multiple layers of washes really well. Let's see if we can lift the paint. So I'm going to wash my brush and maybe just try and scrub this away. I am able to, just lift the paint. But of course that will depend on what paint you are using. So ultramarine can be lifted, phthalo, quinacridone cannot be lifted. So this is pretty good. I'm using a lot of water here, so you can see the paper buckling, but it's not really an issue because the paper is glued on all four sides. Time to put in the finishing touches. So this is cold press paper and the texture looks nice. And this is hot press. So the texture is definitely more subtle here. Hot press is better for painting details, for drawing, for pen and ink. If you like texture, then go for cold press. If you prefer to draw, if you like painting details, then hot press is better, more suited for that type of work. Right, done. So I don't really have any issues with painting. Wet on wet works really well. You can see how beautifully or how softly the paint is spreading on wet surface, and here as well. So if you want more texture, cold press, less texture, hot press, but there is still some texture on hot press, of course. The texture is just less subtle compared to cold press, and I would say the texture is more fine grain. If you draw a lot with pen and ink, maybe cold press would be the better choice. Rollerball will glide better on smoother paper. Unless you really want the rough lines, then go with cold press. Fountain pens should work fine on both paper. Alright, so that's it for this review. If you guys have any questions regarding these two papers, let me know in the comment section below. And I will also add more artworks and sketches created on these two papers in my text review.